you're feeling shame, you're feeling anger, you're feeling sorrow, you're feeling depressed, whatever. Look in the mirror, do some affirmations, and be happy.
You're about to witness the most spiritual person in the world of personal development get systematically broken down in this Disruptors episode. And I don't think the purpose of life is happiness, yet everyone talks about it. What are your thoughts?
We live in a world where people want to tear people down versus lift people up.
He is a mentor to many billionaires and shares some shocking revelations about their struggles with wealth. Why can't you be happy and rich?
I just think when you live at that level of income, there's a lot of complexity.
You're happy and rich.
Well, I wouldn't call myself rich.
Watch me grill, break down, and disrupt the monk who sold his Ferrari. Robin, you wrote The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. I have 7 supercars. Should I sell them all to become enlightened?
The monk who sold his Ferrari was not a manifesto against supercars. It was just a gentle reminder, and maybe a hopeful reminder, to have material possessions be our servants and not our gods. So you know the story, it was about Julian Mantle, this litigation lawyer who had everything in the world, but he lost himself on the way. And so he started defining himself by the things he had. And I do believe there's a cultural hypnosis right now where many people are defining themselves by their watches or by their cars or by how many social media followers they have. Hide that one.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with material things. There's nothing wrong with beautiful things around us. It's just, I believe, and I say this very humbly, when we start defining ourselves and looking for these things to fill the holes within us and to bring us joy, that we run into trouble. Before I came here to meet you, Rob, I was in Los Angeles, and I think about Jim Carrey, the Hollywood legend. And he said, I wish everyone could be rich and famous to realize it doesn't make a difference.
So is there a way we can balance, have a sweet spot of this material versus spiritual life? Because I think most of society seems to be too extreme on one side. And I know quite a lot of people who are very spiritual, and they're very critical of materialistic people and commercialism and consumerism. And I'm not sure that's the way to bring us in to the center.
I think, and I'm not judging, just reporting, sometimes in the spiritual circles there can almost be a righteousness. But if you love beauty, if you love a sunset, if you love a great piece of poetry, if you love a nature walk, these are all things from our world, just like supercars or a great glass of wine. So I don't think there's anything wrong whatsoever looking for beautiful things, whether the material things or whether it's a tulip or a great piece of art or Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. What I'm suggesting, especially in the new book, The Wealth Money Can't Buy, is there are 8 forms of wealth. And I was really clear in that model that founds the foundation of the book. Money is one of the 8 forms of wealth. We need money for freedom. We need money to put food on the family table. We need money to put our kids. It was a pleasure to meet Ariana. We need money to do things for our family, and we need money to help people who are in need. So money is one of the 8 forms of wealth, but there are 7 other forms of wealth that all too often we neglect. And by neglecting those things, I think the danger is a lot of us spend our finest hours of our greatest years climbing a mountain only to realize at some point they've climbed the wrong mountain.
So I'd like to come to these 7 other forms of wealth. You're a well-traveled man. You're an international speaker. We were talking about that before, for 31 years, which I just think is amazing, by the way. And have you noticed a cultural difference, say, with the North Americas versus the UK? Because my mission in life is to help as many people on this planet get better financial knowledge. And there's just such a twisted, sordid, broken, confused, toxic, paradoxical view and experience with money in this country. And all the gurus like yourself, I read your books when I got started. I don't think I had this beard when. I learned from the American experts. There weren't really any in the UK back then. Have you noticed a cultural difference?
Well, the first thing I'd say is I don't see myself as a guru. I think, and we can talk about this, but the thing about a master, and I don't see myself as a master, but masters always think like beginners. And I always want to keep my boots on the ground. Yes, this is year 31. I've mentored many of the world's most successful billionaires, pro athletes, entertainment, royalty, etc. But I think nothing fails like success. And I think it's really important. I never want to see myself as a guru. I'm just a beginner in so many ways. But I don't know. I think what you're identifying is worldwide. I think, Rob, worldwide people suffer from scarcity scars. I think people have a very fascinating, majority of people, in my sense, is people have a challenging relationship with money. And even the people who have money, the people I've advised, a lot of them are cash rich and life poor. There's one chapter in the book, the multi-billionaire in the very empty mansion. So my team received a request. There was a gentleman who wanted me to be his advisor. We agreed to do it. Flew to his country, showed up in the city, went to the area where his house was, surrounded by embassies and almost palaces. Attended his house, biggest house I've ever seen. Walked inside, greeted by an aide. She walked me past the art collection. Then we went past a car collection, a supercar collection, glass wall supercars, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Bugattis. Then she led me downstairs, down a winding staircase, and I could smell cigar smoke. And I heard, is it As the Bell Tolls by Metallica? But it was the Bell Tolls song.
I'm hearing it, yeah.
And that was playing. And all of a sudden I go down this corridor and I walk into this room, and there he is, the corporate titan. You'd know who he is. We spent 2 hours. He told me about this. He told me about his yachts, his jets, all that he's achieved. And then I asked him, I said, this is fantastic. Tell me about your family. Who do you share it with? Long pause. And he said, I'm alone. So I'm suggesting that many people have challenges with money, and it's almost like a self-sabotage. I believe it often comes from holes within us, subconscious undeservability issues. So when we get it, we actually sabotage things, so we tear down the financial fortunes we've made. And also people who have a lot of money, many of them are alone. Many of them are sick. Many of them feel they tell me, they go, the world thinks I'm this, but I feel like an imposter.
But there are also people in poverty who are alone. Because you can be rich and happy, rich and unhappy. You can be poor and happy, poor and unhappy. Would that not be fair?
I think that's very fair.
Because I think there's this almost rhetoric that, well, if you're a billionaire, you're unhappy and you're alone and you've screwed everyone. That seems to be a rhetoric portrayed by society. I've interviewed 21 billionaires. I have a few of them as friends. And you cannot draw a picture of them. You cannot put them in a stereotype, as you'll know. So why is there that rhetoric? Like, why can't you be happy and rich? Why do you have to choose between the two?
Well, I agree with you, Rob. I think some...
You're happy and rich.
Well, I wouldn't call myself rich, but I've seen super rich people, ultra high net worth people who are very happy and who are very healthy. Is it the norm? I don't know. I've never really thought about it. I would probably say 50-50. Of ultranet, I would say 50% are unhappy and maybe even less are happy. I just think when you live at that level of income, there's a lot of complexity. I think in many ways you become a target. We live in a world where people want to tear people down versus lift people up. People get very jealous of these people. And I find internally that level of wealth of these people that I work with, it does something to them. And one of the things it does is it causes them to go on to defense versus offense. They built the company or companies. They had the liquidity event. They have the fortune now. And there's almost like in some cases, a paranoia where they go on defense now. And it's like, who's going to knock me off? Who's going to take this? And it goes into protection mode. And often that signals the beginning of a descent, because what made the fortune was offense and innovation. So what I'm saying is they start protecting their fortune versus building their fortune.
I wonder if that's the nature of the universe, though, because I've studied a lot billionaires who then go into philanthropy, and many of them, it wasn't their initial mission. It was often feedback from society that forced them into philanthropy. And I also wrote in my book, Money Matrix, that there are 4 stages of building wealth, and making them is just one stage, and managing the money is another stage, and maintaining the money is another stage. If you're a billionaire, moving money from one place to another could save or make you 250 million or even £1 billion. Whereas if you're a zero-ware, you need to make your first pound. So is that not nature's way of stopping us getting complacent and a sense of redistribution to society?
Well, I think I believe in many ways ambition has become a dirty word. And it's not for just for billionaires, it's for anyone on the planet. I believe, though, as human beings, as a species, we are built to grow. I think one of the traps a lot of people fall into, good souls, well-intentioned, but they're afraid to lean into the things that frighten them. One thing I believe is the discomfort of growth is always less dangerous than the heartbreak of regret. The discomfort of growth is always less dangerous than the heartbreak of regret. So what we do is often we structure our life to avoid doing difficult things, to avoid doing scary things. And what that does is it sets us up for a very complacent life where we ultimately don't find happiness. Hard is easy and easy is hard. You do hard things, you get up at 5 a.m., you read hard books, you give a hard presentation, you put your hand up for the hard project, read the hard book, all those things, you have an easy life. You hang with the easy crowd, you watch the easy videos, you do the easy work, you do the easy workout, you have a hard life. So one of the through lines in The Wealth Money Can't Buy is, first of all, there's 8 forms of wealth, but one of the through lines is the shortness of life, the fact that we are great postponers. We forget that our days are numbered, and so we put off doing those other 7 forms of wealth, whether it's personal growth, whether it's wellness, whether it's family, whether it's craft. Craft is such an incredible opportunity. A lot of us see a job as a job. A few people see a job as a craft, a chance to pursue mastery, a chance to build intimacy with our gifts and our talents. Is that not a form of wealth money can't buy?
Yeah, I've been telling my staff, I have 130 staff that work in my offices, and then we have our outsourcers, and I've been telling them recently that they should see themselves as artists.
Yes.
And sometimes, because I have the creative background, and I interviewed someone who's just become my new videographer, and he was talking about my channel. I said, no, it's your channel. Because all I am is the interviewer. He's the editor. He's the videographer. If you think about it, he owns that channel more than I do. So the concept of being an artist and what you do is your art, that's something I'd like to come back to. By the way, we're still on question 1. There's 2 things that have popped up, which I'd love to talk about. The first is, take your sip of coffee. You're going to need it for this one. Honestly, what scares Robin Sharma?
What scares me? Unfulfilled potential. Getting to the end. I have this new decision matrix I play with. I don't share it with a lot of people, Rob, but it's my 25 summers philosophy. If I get to live a long life, I have about 25 summers left. I exercise. I do intermittent fasting. I do cryotherapy. I do forest bathing. I try to get enough rest. I do my 2 massage protocol. I try to do.
need to write a new book on the routine. The 2 a.m. club to fit all that in.
So I try to do all these things to live long. But let's say I have 25 summers left. So what frightens me is I don't get my mission done in those 25 years. What frightens me is I get to the last hour of my last day and I didn't, that George Bernard Shaw quote I end the book with. It's, to paraphrase it, I want to be thoroughly used up when I die, not a feverish little clod of excuses expecting the world to make your life for you. So that scares me. When I was growing up, my father, whose father was a priest, my father was very service-oriented, not line on a mission statement on the wall, service-oriented. I'm talking genuinely a humble servant. He was a family doctor in his community for 54 years. And he used to say when I was growing up, Robin, when you were born, you cried while the world rejoiced. Son, live your life in such a way that when you die, the world cries while you rejoice. When we were growing up, there was a statement on our refrigerator from Rabindranath Tagore, the great Bengali poet, and Dad had translated it into English, and it said, "Spring has passed, summer has gone, winter is here, and the song I meant to sing remains unsung, for I have spent my days stringing and unstringing my instrument." That was a man who was busy being busy and never sang the song his life was meant to be. I think that would be my deepest fear, that I don't serve enough people, I don't materialize my potential to do my craft the way I want to, that I hold back on love for fear of rejection or laughter, that I hold back on doing something dangerous in my craft that might, disrupt my winning formula and fall flat on my face. But that's what innovation requires. So those would be some of the things that frighten me.
A dear friend of mine, initially my mentor, Dr. John DeMartini, I was picking him up. We were doing a speaking event together. We're in the back of our car, and he was meditating. I'm not very good at meditating. Takes too long. And he came out of his meditation. He just looked at me completely out of nowhere, and he said, "Rob, I gave up happiness years ago. It makes you so damn depressed." And then went back into his meditation. And that has rung in my ears for the last 10 years. We've talked a fair bit already about being happy. And I worry that there's a cultural delusion that the purpose of life is happiness. And so we chase the unattainable and we miss everything along the way that is happiness because we're chasing it. And we avoid challenge and hardship and fear, chasing happiness. And we get everyone a medal at school, even if they were 12th, for happiness. And we make excuses so we don't feel like we've played small for happiness. And I don't think the purpose of life is happiness. Yet everyone talks about it. What are your thoughts?
Well, you're a pirate. You're a dangerous man to say that in this world where happiness is the trophy we all seek. So I have 3 replies. First of all, I've met John DeMartini, so it's funny he's your friend and mentor. I just met him once in Hawaii at an event, but I was very impressed. Number 2, you said you didn't have time to meditate that day.
And I'm not good at it yet.
It makes me think of one of the best lines of Mahatma Gandhi. He said, "Oh, I have a lot to accomplish today. Therefore, I must meditate 2 hours rather than 1." It's good, right?
Yeah, it is good.
Third thing I'd say, I couldn't agree with you more. That's why I was smiling and I was nodding. I have never been as disinterested in happiness. When I wrote this book, The Wealth Money Can't Buy, 12 months last year, 20 different manuscripts plus, 10,000 plus changes each manuscript. I suffered for this book. I suffered. I wanted every line to be as best as I could make it. People who are reading it now, they're saying, "Oh, well, it's so simple. Like, it's so simply done." I suffered for a year to make it simple. It's like Mark Twain. He said, sorry, I wrote you a long letter. I didn't have time to write you a short one. Simplicity takes years. You look at the great artists. It took Picasso, it took Basquiat. It takes the great artist years to know what not to put in. So all I'm saying is, I don't think the game is happiness. I think the game is doing beautiful work that you're proud of, even if no one sees it. I think the game is, these are the 8 forms of wealth. The first form of wealth, growth. The game is through MVP, meditation, visualization, and prayer, reading, study, nature walks, etc., materializing your potential. I think the game is living life, experiencing the simple graces, the large graces. I think the game is helping as many people as possible. I think the game is not happiness. The game is usefulness. The game is mastery. The game is growth. And all of those things, it's unpopular to say it, but those things take hard work. They take patience. A masterwork takes patience. Great relationship takes patience. And if I could just add,
please,
the byproduct is happiness. I think if we were
the reward,
it's the reward. I don't think happiness is something you chase. I think happiness is something that accrues. If you live in a certain way, you will be happy. Now, does it mean you're going to be happy every day? I'm not happy every day. I'm generally very happy. And even if I'm having a bad day, I have enough tools to very quickly pivot. And through my own personal growth, things that used to bother me even a year ago, they don't bother me. I still have a long way to go, but I've come a long way.
Now, I've been on a mission for 17 years to help as many people on this planet get better financial knowledge. If, like me, you'd like to make, manage and multiply more money, I recommend that you join my digital financial freedom platform. It's really easy to join. You just type in ROB.TEAM. There you're going to learn my 4 M's of making, managing, maintaining and multiplying more money. And the even better news is there's no risk to you because it costs less than 20 pence a day to join. You can cancel anytime. Join right now. I'll also give you my 12-week Money Mastermind University completely for free. It exposes the banking system and teaches you how to play them at their own game. If you join rob.team right now, you get that completely for free. Just type in ROB.TEAM. I'll see you inside with the 10,000 other members in rob.team. So I did say I only had those 2 questions before I move on to question 2, but there's something else. Most people who follow me know me initially for my real estate portfolio that I built to become an entrepreneur, or my training businesses, or maybe now this show and my social media, but they don't know I used to be an artist. They don't know I was the only guy in the country to get 100% at art at GCSE, so I was age 15, and I've always loved art.
Wow.
And there's this paradox that you've just reminded me of. So Ed Sheeran went back to his school where he was brought up, and he did a little lesson with the kids, and he was questioned about being a great songwriter, and he said something which I just thought was great, and he said, in order to write a good song, you've got to write a lot of shit songs. Mm. And the paradox came into my mind because you talked about the constant refining of that book. Because you've done this 31 years, but you've not written masses of books. I've written 19, and I've been doing a lot less than you. And I'm probably more like Slayer. They're one of my favourite metal bands. They just churn out an album every year. And they just scream in a different way every year. And it's the same model. Like Rammstein, it's the same album all the time. But they know their model and they just churn out. And their discography will be 30 albums. So they're prolific over perfect. They're writing songs to write good songs. Whereas you, on the other hand, you are going through painstaking pain to refine every single word. Like, you are full of refined quotes. When you quote, I know you've gone from this amount of information down to I see the mastery in that work. So should we be prolific, like Slayer and Rammstein, and write songs to write the good song? Or should we be like you and hide away in a little cabin and go through pain over a decade to write a poem?
What a brilliant question.
Sorry it took so long, but
What a brilliant question. And I didn't know you were an artist, and I want to ask you, we're here in London, I want to ask you about YBA, the young British artists. I'm just so fascinated by Damien Hirst and Tracy Emin, and I love coming to this city to go to the Tate and the Tate Modern. And so I have so many questions I want to ask you. So you said a bunch of very interesting things to me. First of all, someone said the first draft of, that's actually one of the chapters in the book. It's interesting you say that, which is Ernest Hemingway said, the first draft of anything is SHI.
Yeah. I'm just using Ed's words. They weren't mine.
Yeah, but
have you ever sworn, Robin? I'd love to make you swear live.
Well, I don't, because I believe in the power of words. I believe there's a chapter in the book, use wealth words. Words are powerful. If you look at Martin Luther King Jr., look at Nelson Mandela, if you look at Mother Teresa, you look at the great orators, Winston Churchill, these people electrified masses of people through the power of their words. So I personally believe that every word you use plants a seed in your subconscious. So if you say, hey, those are sick kicks. Oh, that song is dope. Oh, man, the way you wrote your last book, Rob, that was crazy. No, it wasn't crazy. It was hard work. It was discipline. It was a commitment to mastery. So I think if we start, this is just my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not in any way suggesting anyone else needs to think like this, but I just respect the power of words enormously. And I think we live in a world where we say, this is crazy and this is sick and I hate this and this is difficult. There's some cultures that actually say, oh, that's not possible. It's not possible. Well, if you start saying that, you're
almost hypnotizing yourself.
Well, you are hypnotizing yourself, and you're actually rewiring your self-identity, and then you wonder why you go out in the world and you're limited. Well, part of it is because of words. So the first thing I would just say is the first draft of anything is meant to be bad. And John Irving, the writer, said, I'm not a great writer, I'm a great editor. So whether you're building a business, you're building a love story, you're writing a book, doing a screenplay, the first draft is meant to be garbage. But what makes a masterwork is the painstaking revision after revision after revision after revision. You just stay in the game and you make sure it's perfect. Why do I do less books? I think there's many ways to do it. There's Ramstein and Slayer, there's that model, and they've obviously been incredibly successful. I come from a different school. I come from the Taj Mahal school, 21 years to make one of the 7 wonders of the world. I come from the Michelangelo School. I'm not comparing myself. I'm saying these are my heroes. Michelangelo spent 4 years handcrafting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. J.D. Salinger, Catcher in the Rye, he built a masterpiece and then checked out and no one ever saw him again. I just think we live in a world where we are I think it's coming from such fear and scarcity. We push out 1,000 mediocrities versus taking the time to spend a year, 2 years, 20 years on that one masterwork. In the book, I call it your Project X, that stands the test of time and is so beautiful it wows all witnesses.
You make me want to go back and re-edit all my books 142 times each.
From what I've seen, the great masters are minimalists versus maximalists. And they have the discipline to say, I will not release this book. We're talking about books. I will not release this book until it's a masterwork. And our job as creators is to push magic into the marketplace in this world where people are aching, longing, praying for a little bit of magic. I saw, have you seen the Banshees of Inisherin?
No.
Oh, like this movie blew my mind. Colin Farrell and I can't wait for you to see it. But it's just a masterwork. Or I look at Oppenheimer. I mean, mastery. I look at Joker. Joaquin Phoenix.
Mm.
And then if you look at some of the behind the scenes footage, even the scene of the Joker when he's dancing alone. Did you see the Joker?
Yes. Yeah.
He's dancing alone, no music, but he's dancing in the bathroom mirror. The deconstruction, the thoughtfulness, the preparation was incredible. I think this is a GCA, a gargantuan competitive advantage in a world where people rush to do books, rush to do movies, rush to launch businesses and move on to the next one. To just be one of those rare souls that says, I will only push magic out into the marketplace. The great thing is then all you need is one. All you need is one catcher in the rye. I mean, that book, if you want to talk numbers, still sells millions every year because it's so good.
Mm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Why is cemetery walking a life mastery skill?
I think that you've really done your research. I believe that's from one of my mastery sessions. So one day I was in Mauritius. It's this great island in the Indian Ocean, and I happened to be just going on a long walk, and I saw a cemetery, and I just spent an hour or two hanging out in the cemetery. And I just believe connecting to the shortness of life is a powerful way to live. And anytime I talk about this, mortality, people go, oh yeah, but death is dark. No, I think death is light. And what I mean by that is as human beings, we're great postponers. We postpone spending time with the family. We postpone doing that master work. We postpone being our true selves. We postpone getting fit to some imaginary time in the distance when we feel more confident and we have more time. But no one knows what tomorrow's going to bring. And so I believe any way that you can remind yourself every day that your days are numbered no matter how long you get to live allows you to live to the point. A lot of people are busy being busy. A lot of people are addicted to their phones. Let's not confuse busy with productivity. Let's not confuse movement with progress. I think the happiest people, the most truly successful, the truly wealthy people, I'm not talking financial wealth, are the people who they know their personal Mount Everest, and each day is a platform to get closer. So I just think connecting to your mortality is important. And here's a little tool. There's 5 questions I ask myself in my journaling sessions each morning. And these 5 questions have helped my clients enormously. Number 1, what am I grateful for? We all know the power of gratitude, releases dopamine. It's the antidote to fear. Lots of good science on gratefulness practice. Second question, where am I winning? See, the brain has a negativity bias. We focus on where we're losing. It was a great neurobiological mechanism hundreds of years ago on the savannah when we'd cover threats. This forces us to focus on our progress. Third question, great question. What will I let go of today? We're all carrying people inside of us who have hurt us. What will I let go of today? Writing it out continues to release it. Fourth question, what does my ideal day look like? And fifth question, what does my last day look like? Could you imagine every day you write a paragraph of what you want on your tombstone statement? It's a great decision matrix for living a better day.
So I'm certainly going to be implementing a lot of this into my own life. One thing it does want me to slightly challenge you on,
Sure,
is that practice seems to be moving away from what we might perceive as negative emotions or fear-based drivers towards more solution and positive emotions. But aren't emotions like shame and frustration? I tell you what, I am the most productive on a frustrating day. I just get the most done. Probably not in the most elegant way, but twice a year, I have this feeling like everyone needs me and they're all being a little bit childish in their needs of me. And I feel like I've told them many times what they need to do and they're still coming to me. You know, the baby chick that opens its mouth and wants the regurgitated food. Oh, that's not regurgitated enough. Do it some more. And I have a couple of days a year where I'm probably not the most elegant guy, but do I get a lot of stuff done on that day. And, shame has been an amazing motivator to me. I hate the feeling. But, I should probably say thanks to all the people that called me the most horrific things when I was the overweight kid in school. Because I never lost weight from all the kind things. All my friends said, don't you worry, you're all right. You've got, thyroid, big bones. No, I don't want to use the language because I want to be respectful of you. But there was some powerful language used to me that begins with F and C. And that hit so much shame. I lost the weight. I lost 3 stone in 8 or 9 weeks. So is there an argument that these, what we perceive to be negative emotions, frustration, anger, shame, they're actually leverageable?
I believe that the world has been created by angry people. The world has been created by people with a chip on the shoulder. Yeah. You said that about me? You called me this in school? You laughed at my big idea?
Yeah. Says every entrepreneur ever.
Says every entrepreneur ever. That's the reality. And I'm not at all about toxic optimism. Actually, in my book, The Everyday Hero Manifesto, the one before this one, there's a whole chapter called The Big Lie of Positive Thinking. It never felt right to me, Rob. You're feeling shame, you're feeling anger, you're feeling sorrow, you're feeling depressed, whatever. Look in the mirror, do some affirmations, and be happy. It just didn't
tried that.
It just didn't feel right. So I believe when you're dealing with a lower, I'm not going to say a bad emotion, it's a human emotion. We have a range of human emotions. We have joy, wonder, gratitude, love, and we have shame, disappointment, sadness, anger, all those.
Guilt.
It's just being human. To feel these things is being human. Having said that, if we don't process through and metabolize the shame, the anger, then we swallow it. And it starts to form this, what I called a field of hurt. All those words, all the trauma you experienced growing up. If you haven't processed it, it's still there. So you have used it for excellent results. Bravo. I would actually ask you, very, very humbly, what if you built your next business or wrote your next book or had your next adventure being driven not by shame, to use your words, but by service, but by love, but by wonder? I would suspect, I call it your root intention. If the true root intention is not being driven by shame, anger, I'll show you, but beauty. Like the great artists. Of course, some of them were driven by shame and anger. I agree with you. But a lot of them they were the French word aesthetes. They just loved beauty. Did you know Vincent van Gogh only sold 2 pieces of art in his entire lifetime? He wasn't driven by fame. He wasn't driven by fortune. He wasn't driven by, I need to prove this to the world. He was driven by a quest to push magic and beauty into the world. And the sad thing is the world laughed at him. One of my favorite movies, I'm talking a lot about movies today, but it's At Eternity's Gate by Willem Dafoe. What a movie. And there's a scene in there where they actually lock Vincent van Gogh up in a mental institution. And the manager of the institution walks over and holds up a drawing and goes, Vincent, do you actually, it was Vincent van Gogh's work, do you actually think this is art? Is it beautiful? And he looks at it and he goes, yes, I think it's very beautiful. And so I believe to be driven by service, to be driven, you're an artist, to be driven by beauty, to be driven not for any externals, but to build more intimacy with your mastery. Like that is a wealth money can't buy, to get to know yourself, to become the person you're here on the planet to become, even if the world doesn't celebrate you. What is more powerful than self-respect, self-honor? The world might think you're whatever, but if you love yourself and you respect yourself, I think you have more wealth than all the gold in the world.
So I'm definitely driven by service, 100%. And it was actually John DeMartini that taught me that, taking your vision from personal to familial to local to communal to national to intercontinental to global to interplanetary. And so I've certainly, if you notice, I said my personal life mission is to help as many people on this planet get better financial knowledge.
Yes.
So I'm happy there. The whole thing about self-love, though, and doing things because I'm looking at something and I just love it. I mean, this will end up in a therapy session and you'll have to invoice me, your full fee, because I'm not there yet. I don't love myself, not at all. I have moments where I think I did good work periodically. I know I've got good intentions. I know I help a lot of people. But, I mean, my therapist, who I go back to every now and again, she said to me, she always likes to talk to the child, Rob. I'm like, put him away. And she keeps bringing it up. She said, if he was sat there, what would you say to him? And I just said, well, I'd just be so embarrassed. And she was shocked. So I don't know how to do self-love. I don't know what that means.
It's incredibly honest what you just said.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. I don't know that I'm even worthy of it. Yeah.
Well, I would say, of course, you're worthy of it.
I mean, I could tell someone else they're worthy of it, of course.
Sure. Well, of course, you're worthy of it. You're a human being. We live in a world where we put a billionaire on the pedestal. We put them on the cover of a magazine. We say, here's success. And the most wealthy person the happiest person I've ever met was my ski instructor, one of the happiest people. And he said, Robin, we're not rich, but we have rich lives. And that's one of the key messages in the book. And money is one of the 8 forms of wealth. I want to be clear. We can get into some of the other ones like craft and wellness and service and adventure. But if I may, I think you look like you're very moved here with this idea that we're talking about. And it sounds like a platitude, but I'm not at all. I'm speaking very sincerely, but you're a human being. You're clearly a wonderful father. I met your daughter here. You're helping millions of people. And everyone who's listening from around the world. I mean, we all have gifts. We all have talents. We all have fears. We all have insecurities. And I think a lot of us don't feel worthy. And then what we do is our primary relationship with ourselves determines every other relationship. So for someone who doesn't feel worthy or who doesn't love themselves or doesn't respect themselves, that's going to affect the relationship with your family, with your money, with your coworkers, with your neighbors, people on the street. That's why I start off with the first form of wealth, growth. Often people think that the doorway to success opens outward. When I get the supercars and when I get the mansion, when I get 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, 50 billion, I will be happy. Well, it's the Zen proverb. Wherever you go, there you are. But this is the seduction of society. It's like if you get a lot of money and lots of things, you're going to find the happiness. It's like we have these holes inside that we're trying to fill with external things, and then we get the external, and we could get into hedonic adaptation, which is the psychological concept, which is you get the new thing, you adapt to it, and then you go back to a baseline of happiness before. But for all the people listening, I mean, human beings are amazing. We are the people who did the great art, made the great monuments. And I think personal growth is so powerful. We could talk about some tools. MVP. Do you meditate, visualize, and pray?
No, none of those. Well, visualize, yes. I love to get very excited about the future. And I'm very good at coming up with lots of ideas, and I spend a lot of my time. I'm not sitting there going, right, this is my time to visualize. I'm just always visualizing about the future. as soon as we met and we started talking, I could see myself and, oh, I'm going to be speaking on stages with Robin, and we're going to be doing more work together, and who knows what and and my brain naturally goes there. So I probably visualize. I definitely don't meditate, and I don't pray, because I just have such, I don't know the universe. I don't know what it means. I don't know who the God is. I'm just not at that level. So I V. I don't M and P.
You know what all I can tell you is it works. And we're all looking for tools. And one of the tools that is so powerful is journaling. Just journaling about your hopes, journaling about your longings, journaling about your pain, journaling about what you just told me. Just writing out, you release it. It really works. And meditation, visualization, and prayer, like spending an hour every morning. I usually spend 45 minutes. I'm not any kind of a guru. I'm just sharing a more part of my morning routine that works extraordinarily well. It doesn't work in a day, but meditating, it might be I do a body scan. Okay, oh, there's some fear here, or there's some insecurity, or I'm worried about this, or and just spending 10 or 15 minutes meditating and doing a body scan and locating what the sensation are and what the emotion. I don't know if we're going too deep down the rabbit hole, but
let's go wherever you want to go.
But it's so powerful, because to heal a wound, you need to feel a wound. See, this is why so many people in this field, they say mindset is everything. And with great respect, I don't think mindset is everything. I believe there are 4 interior empires to work on if you want to grow yourself. Mindset is your psychology, but there's heart set, our emotionality. We have feelings. To pretend we don't and just focus on the mind is called denial. And then you stuff it down. And it becomes a shadow self, to use the words of the eminent psychologist Carl Jung. And he said, feelings that you do not work with and process come back to haunt you in invisible ways. So we have mindset, we have heart set. That's our emotionality. Then we have our health set, our physicality, energy, longevity. And then we have soul set, our spirituality. All 4 of those are important. So meditating, visualizing, and praying every morning for 45 minutes is a powerful way to rewire any undeservability, any lack of self-belief in yourself. It just works so well. And you say, you don't believe in prayer, then practice scientific prayer.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't say I don't believe in it. I just know my lack of understanding of it. I know that there's many forms of prayer, and we all attach to our own beliefs. There's something that's the emotion I'm feeling at the moment is a slight defensiveness, and I want to just go there. So the study of axiology, the study of values, is it not true that many masters and artists and people who change the world are continually attempting to fill their own voids, and those voids create the values? I'm sure the person that started Alcoholics Anonymous was an alcoholic. I mean, you look at anyone who has a major trauma, that can be the start of the forming of their charitable organization that helps 1 million people. Are we all not in some way filling our emptinesses? Because even though I said, what is to love yourself, I don't actually hate that about myself. I quite love that about myself, because that's the mission I'm fulfilling in life is in part the filling of that. And if it were already full, hey, I love myself, I'm not writing any more books, don't need to. I've written 19 because I love myself, don't need any more for validation. So is there not an argument that we can go inside and feel these voids and pains, and that can be the driver to change the world?
I think it is one of the drivers to change the world, and I think we agree on that. What I was getting at is having an intention of pursuing beauty, coming from a place of inspiration, working on yourself so you have even more self-respect, understanding of how powerful you are, more intimacy with your gifts and your talents. I believe it will take your output in the world to a whole new level. I definitely agree. Like many of the greatest artists suffered the most. I'm a huge fan of Jean-Michel Basquiat. I mean, you look at Jean-Michel Basquiat, these people suffered. And I think they suffered because they were so sensitive.
Great artists often are, aren't they?
Great.
Yeah.
I was on an airplane to Paris with one artist, and he said, I pick partners who break my heart. I said, why would you do that? And he said, because I do my best art when my heart is broken.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about super sensitive people. We feel, I can tell you are, that you're an artist. So you feel, but because you feel, you're present. Because you feel, you see things maybe the majority can't see. So you can paint about it or you can write about it. The downside is you feel so deeply, and that's why a lot of artists get into drugs and other escapes, and they take negativity and criticism so deeply because they feel. So yes, I think it's really powerful to use your holes to change the world. All I was suggesting is the power of healing, personal growth is so good for productivity and for elite performance and leadership. I think a lot of the problems in the world right now are because, we have there's that old idea, heal what hurt you so you don't bleed on people who didn't cut you. And I think
that's most people are living their entire intimate relationships just taking the baggage of their past, aren't they? And that's powerful, very powerful.
I think that's the story of maybe most relationships. It's you're projecting things, or that again, another old idea. If it's hysterical, it's historical. So you're at home and something happens and you go, what? I just asked you to pass the tea. Where did that come from?
Yeah. When I was 5. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's the little 5-year-old who never got any praise or whatever. So, and that brings me to the third form of wealth, which is family. One of the chapters in there is, there's two that I wanted to mention. One is your choice of mate is 90% of your joy. And number 2 is the 10,000 dinners question. This comes from Ayesha Varde, one of the top divorce lawyers in the world. She's worked with all the famous footballers and film stars and super rich. And she was asked, you've seen so many relationships fall apart. What's the secret to a great relationship? And she said, number 1, separate bedrooms. And number 2, she said, 10,000 dinners. And the interviewer for the FT said, what do you mean? And she said, looks fade, lust can dissolve, but if you see yourself having 10,000 dinners with this person, you've got a chance at a great love story. Keep that person close.
Wow. Is there a paradox in growth? Because many spiritual and personal development teachers have taught me that I'm perfect as I am. So if I'm perfect as I am, there is nothing to improve. A lot of my growth and improvement probably comes from my feeling of imperfection. Is there not a paradox there?
I don't think we're all perfect. I think the human condition is an imperfect condition. I think there are a handful of people who grace the planet who were perfect, and these are enlightened. These are the saints that we admire. I think the rest of us have suffered from micro trauma and macro trauma. We've experienced hurts along the way. We haven't forgiven people. And if you haven't forgiven someone, you're carrying that person on your back through life. You have a lot of entrepreneurs who follow you and say, is forgiveness important? It's incredibly important. If you haven't done your forgiveness work, that's going to affect your intimacy with your energy, your creativity, your productivity.
But does anyone need to be forgiven? Because they're only being themselves. Is it not yourself that you need to forgive?
I've heard that. I believe some people need to be forgiven. I
suppose if they murdered a family member, I could understand why they would need to be forgiven. But otherwise, to forgive someone is to perceive that they were being anything other than who they should be. And so we create a false expectation of how we perceive others should be. No one lives to our own standards. They live to their own standards.
Well, I hear what you're saying. That's far too intellectual for me. For me,
Sorry.
here's how I see it. People hurt us. Have you been hurt in business? Have you been betrayed by a partner?
I have.
Have you been heartbroken by
I have.
someone in a relationship?
I have. And then when you fully own it,
yes,
and you realise that actually you had a good part to play in that.
I'm not saying that. I'm in no way saying it doesn't take two to tango. I'm simply saying often when someone has hurt us, there's a tendency for us to hold that resentment.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, that business partner, I treated them so well. And when push come to shove and I got backed in the corner, look how they treated me. And I think it's human nature, Rob, that sometimes we hold that grudge. And all I'm saying is forgiveness is understanding that person did the best they could do based on the level that they're of consciousness that they're at. And to use Maya Angelou, the great American poet's words, if they knew better, they would do better. And does that mean we don't have a part in it? Absolutely. Victims are all about CBE, complaint, blame, and excuse. Leadership is all about APR, absolute personal responsibility. Forgive the person so you don't carry them on your back, so you can move forward, create, produce, live your finest life, and then look in the mirror and also say, what did I do in this situation as well?
So really you're saying the forgiveness process is more for you than them.
Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself.
Because they don't even know they're being forgiven. They can't hear your thoughts.
Well, what did old comedian, what did Buddy Hackett say? He goes, while you're holding a grudge, they're out dancing.
Yeah.
Like they're not sitting here at home going like, I hurt Rob.
Yeah,
they're scrolling, looking at dancing puppies or influencers putting on mud masks.
Amen to that. So how do you remove toxic beliefs?
Okay, so one of the forms of wealth is community. And I believe your social circle is a form of riches. And so I think it's very powerful to strip out the energy. I think you can change the world or be around toxic people. You can't do both. And so a lot of people want to be happier. They want to be more productive. They want to be fitter. They want to be more peaceful. But there are all these energy vampires and dream stealers in their lives. And then if you were to say, well, why don't you just say goodbye to them? It's like, oh, this is my best friend. Well, I'd say reason, season, lifetime. Some people are meant to be in your life for a reason. Some people are meant to be in your life for a season. And some people are meant to be in your life for an entire lifetime. And just because someone was great at one part of your journey doesn't mean they're going to be great for your whole journey. You love to grow. I love to grow. If you have friends who aren't growing with you, you're going to definitely get to a point, even in an intimate relationship. If your partner's not growing with you and evolving, you're going to get to a place where you just see the world differently. So one of the chapters in that section is recruited clean out the energy vampires, and just start spending your time with people whose lives you want to be living. If you are the wisest person in your neighborhood, maybe it's time to move to a new neighborhood. If you're the fastest person you know, maybe it's time to know new people.
So I'd love to talk about your book. I've read, I'm pretty sure, all of your books. So the new one is Wealth.
The Wealth Money Can't Buy.
Right. Okay. So could you give us what's the concept? I love talking about concept.
Macro picture, the world says chase money and material things to be rich. I believe that's only one. I want to be super clear. There's 25 chapters or so, my deconstructions on what I've learned from mentoring many of the world's most successful financial people for 15 plus years. There's a whole section on money. It's the fifth form of wealth. But there are 7 other forms of wealth that I believe once you feed them and experience them will make you rich. Money is only one of them. I mean, that's pretty much that's pretty much the concept.
And where can we get the book?
The book is available on Amazon, good bookstores around the world, and Audible.
Did you read it yourself?
I didn't. I don't know about you.
Why?
But
I've got a thought on this.
Well, I've listened to books like the beginning, what do you call them, the trailer or the little excerpt, and I just believe reading a book requires a special skill. And there are some great books where the authors read them and I can't listen to the book because the author just isn't a great reader. So I thought I better hire a great reader, which I've done, Adam Sims, who reads the book.
Yeah, my communities, and this has been thousands of times, have almost created a revolution that they will not allow anyone else to read my books other than me. And for me, it's the most torturous process. I actually read them here because Audible Studios is here. And when I saw you, I was immediately happy to see you, but also feeling the pain of coming back to this place where I have to read audiobooks. Maybe. So I see the paradox in whether you should read yourself or not. I wrote one book called Life Leverage, and I always had the excuse that, well, if I read that myself, that's not leverage. So that would be against the concept of the book. So come on. And they are like, oh, all right. But they literally won't have me not read my books. But, you have a very distinctive way of speaking, as do I. And so in listening to you, they're going to connect with you, and maybe they've already heard you. And then no matter how good your reader is, they can't speak from the universe like you can. Like when you speak, I feel the universe coming through you. When I speak, you probably hear the rants and the anger and the trauma coming through me. I'm happy with that. I've got a good style. People like me. I'm good on stage. I'm disruptive. It's okay. It's on brand. So is there not an argument that no matter how great someone is, they're not going to speak through the universe like you do?
There's a very good argument. Absolutely. I totally, that's one of the struggles. When they hear my voice, it's authentic, it's my story, I get it. I just think if you have to weigh these things, and all things considered, I have a reader who sort of sounds like me, who is just great at what he does. He sounds so real. He did the Everyday Hero Manifesto as well. And I just think it works. So nothing's perfect in life.
No, of course.
Right? Nothing's perfect.
I mean, is there an argument that neither decision is right nor wrong? They just are.
Sure.
And you could choose either way and justify that it's right or wrong.
I think that's completely true.
Does that... Because I went through that journey as an artist in the end, understanding that... So, for example, I love the authentic rock bands who I believe don't sell out, like Radiohead.
I love Radiohead.
A lot of emotion in that music. And I loved how every time the world thought they understood Radiohead, there was a big V sign stuck up, we're going to go and reinvent ourselves. And I used to despise when bands like Muse and Coldplay, who, when they started, were quite similar, but then became stadium bands, and I would perceive that it would sell out. And then I went to a Rammstein concert. I love all types of music and not just filthy metal, but I went to a Rammstein concert and I realised the way they write music, which is very simple riffs, it's essentially the same chords from the first album, the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth. I realised it was perfection for the environment, which was a big stadium. And if you have all the intricacies that you get in metal with solo number 1 and solo number 2 and all the self-congratulatory stringing, it would sound terrible in a stadium. And in that moment, I realised actually Muse and Coldplay are also great artists because they can scale their art in a way that people love, even though as an artist I might deem that it's a bit simple. The drummer in Coldplay, in his first album, he was doing a lot on the drums, and it was tasty. It doesn't do much on the drums anymore. But that in a 50,000 stadium sounds brilliant. So is there is this a rabbit hole we go down where in the end you realise nothing is right or nothing is wrong and everything just is? And does that conflict against the pursuit of mastery and ultimately trying to do the right and the best thing? And have I actually made any sense?
You've made total sense. And I would say the great thing about being a creator and a producer is you get to run the race that's right for you. There are some authors who write their own books, and that's absolutely essential because they're pursuing a craft, et cetera, et cetera. And there are some authors that have writers do it, and sometimes multiple writers do it. And then hopefully this is a fairly good metaphor, like the bands you mentioned, there's scale because they're not spending 4 years or a year working on the book. They've got multiple writers. There's some writers, they do 100-page outlines, give it to the writers, and that allows them to scale. Who are we to judge what's right or wrong? You just have to pick the way of creating that's right for you. Personally, I like Radiohead. You know, just that, I mean, I just think there's so much love of the craft. I think from what little I know, I mean, I love Radiohead's music, Fake Plastic Trees. I mean, what a classic. Mm. But I think they would rather play a small little venue and run their own race and do their thing versus be more commercial. It also makes me think of George Clooney. He said, you know, I just want to get this right. I think he said, I accepted Batman, a commercial movie. He goes, I accepted Batman so I could pay for my house in Lake Como. And then I did the independent roles as well. So he seems to be of both schools, pursuing the craft, but also doing commercial things. So yeah, you just, I think any creative person has to figure out what's right for them, how they want to scale, what their work process is. I mean, the fifth form of wealth in the Wealth Money Can't Buy is your craft. And the position I've taken there is one masterwork versus 1,000 mediocrities. There's chapters on create your Project X, which is your Taj Mahal, your Sistine Chapel ceiling, your Duomo. It's not doing a lot of things, putting out a lot of albums, metaphorically speaking. It's doing that one masterwork, no matter how long it takes, no matter how much you suffer. But once you put it out there, it stands the test of time. To me, that just feels right to me. Mm. And then there's a lot in that section also about beating distraction. I think in this world right now, you know, I think what makes mastery is flow state. Genius loves isolation. I think we are so in the world right now, and there's so much noise we can't hear the signal. So there's one chapter called Find Your Personal Goldeneye. Ian Fleming, as you know, created the James Bond series. And what he did was he found this seaside cottage in Jamaica and he called it Goldeneye. And he would go there and retreat from the world to do his finest work. He actually was so meticulous about protecting his focus. He told the gardeners, when I'm writing, don't walk across the garden, which is my view of the Atlantic Ocean, because you'll break the trance I have in flow state. There's another chapter, bring a security guard to work. Neil Strauss, you got me on this thing about writers and artists. Neil Strauss hired a security guard. He said, I have to finish this book. Stand outside of my apartment. Do not leave. Do not let me out of this house until I finish the book. I thought that was quite interesting in this world where we don't have the ability any longer, or many of us, to sit quietly alone working on the work for days, weeks, months, even years to get the work done. Mm.
I can relate to all of that. Could my daughter come and ask you 3 questions?
Of course.
Hey, Bubs. So you come and sit on my lap. So we were on the train on the way down, and Ariana's written 3 questions for you.
Amazing.
And yeah, we just need to put the microphone, because you have to, if you say the question into the microphone. Okay. So Ariana's 9, and I think this is the first one of my podcasts she's been on. You may be episode 1002.
Wow.
Robin. So, so this is a great moment. And Ariana's got her bracelet business,
Yeah.
which she loves. So if you ask one and then let Robin answer,
Okay.
and then when he's finished, ask the next one, and then when he's finished, ask the next one. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you say into there,
Okay. What does it feel like to you to be rich?
Well, that's such an interesting question. That's a very thoughtful question, Ariana. I feel rich because I have an incredible relationship with my father, who's going to be 87 in a few months, and my mother. I feel rich because I have an incredible life partner in Elle and two amazing children. I feel rich because I have good health and energy, and I can still do what I love to do 31 years into the field. I feel rich because I'm in some way helpful to people. I feel rich because I can go to an art gallery and see beautiful art. So I don't really see rich so much about money. I think rich is about adventure, relationships, those kinds of things.
Okay.
Was that a good answer, Ariana?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What was your most successful book and why?
My most successful book. I wrote a book over 25 years ago called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. That was a successful book. A few years ago, I wrote a book called The 5 a.m. Club. Do you want to join the 5 a.m. Club? Want to get up at 5?
what time does Daddy get up?
Like 4.
3.
Wow. Wow.
I'm going to write your follow-up book.
My gosh. So I would say the most successful book is The 5 a.m. Club.
I'm going to just put a cheeky one in there for you to
Yeah.
ask.
How many books have you sold, Robin?
This is unbelievable. So I'd love you to just please brag about this.
Well, my publishers say over 25 million.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. How does that make you feel? Like, honestly.
I don't spend much time thinking about it.
Can we spend a minute thinking about it now?
You're going to put me on the couch now.
I'd love to.
I spend very little time. I think it's dangerous thinking about those things. I think it's very dangerous looking at those kinds of numbers. And I just try to keep the boots on the ground, stick to the craft, stick to the mission. I'm a lot of time with my family. My prayers just stay grounded, keep it real. Like do not think too much about that stuff. I just think it's a seduction and it can get you confused.
Is it okay for someone like me to be inspired by that?
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
I think I'm a bit over the million, but not much. Certainly not at the 25, and I'm not comparing.
Sure.
You know, but I find that really inspiring.
Well, if I can be helpful, that's great. It's great. I started off with a self-published book, so it's amazing what happens if you just stay in the game.
Right, your last question, Ariana. Nice and close in the mic.
Okay. How do you make your brother less annoying?
How do I make my brother less annoying? Wow, that's just like a theoretical question. This is
Might be a
just
personal
you know, is it a little like is it from personal experience?
I think you were talking about your brother, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm sure your brother adores you. No, no,
No.
no. Well, how do you make your brother? Have you ever told him that he's bothering you?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe have a good conversation with him.
He wouldn't listen.
So, well, I'm sure you can find some solutions. How do you think you can get him to be less irritating to you or annoying?
Maybe help him with something or like do something for him.
Ooh.
Like clean his room if he has a messy room.
Well, there'll be lots of opportunity for that.
Yeah, stuff like that probably.
It's very wise. Do something nice for him. See what he does. Sounds like a great idea. Great. Those were hard questions.
Thank you.
Those were hard questions, Ariana. But great questions.
Thank you.
And congratulations. You've got a wonderful daughter.
Yeah, she's great. Let's change it up.
Sure.
So I picked out your most popular videos on your YouTube channel. And I just thought it would be good to get a little soundbite summary.
Yes.
So how can you 100x your productivity? That was your second most popular video, I think.
I would say a few things. The 2-phone protocol. So an addiction and distraction is the death of your creative production. Many of us are losing our finest hours playing with our phones. We know that. So the 2-phone protocol is a method that I teach to my clients where you have your fully loaded phone. It has all your social media apps, your food apps, your weather apps. And then you have a Spartan phone, stripped down. Maybe all you have is SMS. And that's for emergency. When you are working, you keep the Spartan phone with you. Then there's no distraction, no attraction to be checking your phone all the time. Related to the 2-phone protocol, and it works beautifully, related to the 2-phone protocol, Rob, is get lost. We don't do our best work at our home office. We don't do our best work in an office. We do our best work when we're isolated. What I love doing is renting a hotel room in my home city if I have a project, what I call in the book my Project X, and I'll stay there for a week, and I'll just get lost from the world. I also get some of my best work done on airplanes. So it's very powerful to find your tight bubble of total focus where you don't have distractions and you get into flow state. Even if it's a public library, you go get lost in the stacks. Don't tell anyone where you are. I just think we're too available to too many people, and that's causing us not to do our best work and to be productive. What else would I say about productivity? The 5 great hours rule, especially for entrepreneurs. We have a style of working, often it's hustle and grind. Let me work longer hours to get more done. That comes from the factory era, where if we'd be longer on the factory line, we would produce more goods. We were productive. Now we're in the knowledge era. We're in the idea era. And yet we're still measuring our productivity by time invested in the work. What I believe and what I teach to my clients is 5 intense hours. 5 hours monomaniacally focused on real work versus fake work. You're not playing with your phone. You're not watching videos. You're not picking up the phone every time it rings. You're working on that project that when you put it out in the world allows you to dominate your domain. Third productivity idea, morning workout, morning routine. Complete game changer. Starting your day with MVP, meditation, visualization, and prayer. Then spending an hour working out, sweating. Then spending an hour journaling. And maybe taking an Epsom salt bath. That's 3 hours. Sounds like a lot. Watch how much you get done in the day. Final idea. We could go on and on. Digital Sabbath. Every 7 days. 24 hours. Hard red line. No technology whatsoever. That allows you to refuel your assets of genius, including your mental focus, your physical energy, your personal willpower.
How can you wake up early?
According to University College London, it takes roughly 66 days of practicing any new skill to reach a point of automaticity. Automaticity is where it's easier to get up early or do the new skill than not do the new skill. So we all have a gift as human beings, and I want to say this really clearly because I think hopefully it'll be very helpful. Every human being has a gift, and the gift is neuroplasticity. Our brain is malleable. We are built to grow. We can adapt to new situations. We just don't give it enough time. We just don't give it enough time. Whether it's joining the 5 a.m. club, whether it's working, doing better work, whether it's being a better listener, whatever it is, we don't give it enough time for the new habit to take root, to be automatic. So 60 days practicing getting up at 5 a.m., you'll reach a point where it's actually easier to get up at 5 a.m. than not. And people who've never joined the 5 a.m. club, it's an hour of magic. There's so much stillness. Spartan warriors say, sweat more in training, bleed less in war. It's a time for yourself to practice, to get stronger, to pray, to relax, to paint.
6 things you'd wish you'd learned at 20. Let's do 3 of them because that video went viral for you.
I must confess, I probably shot that 4 or 5 years ago, so I don't remember the 6 things. I shoot a lot of content, but I want to be responsive to your question. Number 1, I wish I had learned earlier that a red flag is a red flag, and hoping it'll be green could create a lot of problems. When it's not my idea, but someone once said, and I think it was Maya Angelou again, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. So a red flag is a red flag. And we often say to ourselves, it's almost delusional, we'll change that person, or maybe what I'm seeing isn't there. Wishful thinking is a dangerous strategy in business and in relationships. Second thing I wish I'd learned earlier, just the importance of trusting your instinct. Instinct is so much more powerful than intellect. And when people laugh at you, your idea is probably a great idea. You know all about disruptive and disruption. Any disruptive idea is going to scare the status quo. Every visionary is ridiculed before they're revered. So I wish I'd learned earlier when the trolls come out to play and the critics come out to chatter. An opinion is just an opinion, and don't make it any more than just an opinion. Trust your own instinct. Third thing I wish I had learned earlier. I've always tried to be helpful, but more than ever, I think being someone who looks for every opportunity to give a gift. Whether it's a gift of your work, whether it's a gift of a compliment, whether it's a gift of a book you like that you give to someone. You're in a restaurant, buy a bottle of wine, you have a glass for yourself, and you give a gift to the kitchen. It's extraordinarily powerful for the receiver, and it's incredibly powerful for yourself. Pau Gasol was the center of the Los Angeles Lakers, and he came to one of my live events. And so we got to know each other. So I drove him to the airport. As we walked through the airport for him to get to his gate, people came up to him, kids came up to him, he shot a picture. Fathers came up to him, he signed the thing. Mothers came up to him, he gave him a polite hug or whatever it was. And he did that all the way through the airport. When we got to the gate, Rob, I said, Pau, you had time for every single person. And he said something to me I've never forgotten. And he said, Robin, it takes so little to make someone happy. It takes so little to give a good tip to a hotel room cleaner. It takes so little to be in London and have a chat with the taxi driver and just go like, what's your story? Like, what have you seen? It takes so little to make someone happy. Those are the 3 things that come to mind.
For years, people have been asking me where I buy my watches. Many of you may know I'm a watch collector, I'm a watch investor, and those as an asset class have done me very well in the last 15 years. I have never shared where I source my watches from or my watch dealer, until now. My watch dealer used to be a professional footballer for Manchester United, and he formed a watch brand called Broadwalk, and he sources the higher end brands like Rolex, Audemars Piguet, Patek Philippe and Richard Mille. I trust him, I've used him for many years, and recently we've done a partnership, hence I'm inviting you, if you want to start investing in watches and protect your money from the banks and inflation, to check out Broadwalk. That's BROADWALK. And the website is broadwalkgroup.com. The email is sales@broadwalkgroup.com. And please don't share this, but his number is 07496 878 153. Obviously, only message him if you're serious about buying and investing in the higher end watches. People have been asking me for years, and for the first time ever, you can get access to my watch dealer. So earlier, we managed to have a therapy session with me. And something I've found in the moments where you're not feeling great about yourself, because I feel that a fair amount in my life, the easiest way, the best way, the most fulfilling way is to do something for someone else. Mm. It seems to me like it's neurologically implanted in our biological makeup that the best way to feel good about yourself is to help someone else and see their reaction. I have a rule, double tip. So whatever it costs, they get double. And it's amazing how much you can change a taxi driver's mood when you give him £20 for a £10 fare. £10 is nothing. I mean, that's nothing. But when you see them change, and then, so almost like I don't want to make giving a tool, because giving's so much more than a tool, but certainly, because I find when I'm in the most amount of pain in my life, I can become the most selfish, because we want to get rid of the pain and we'll do anything to get rid of the pain, and that's a selfish act. But then the best way to get rid of all pain is to just do something for someone. Would you agree with that?
I completely agree with that. And when you're in pain, as I've been in pain, we're like animals. We retreat to the wilderness to lick our wounds and to heal. That's human. Mm. You look at an animal that gets cut, they go off on their own. You need to take care of yourself. But actually the eighth form of wealth, and the wealth money can't buy, is service. Mm. And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about, I believe, in this world of a lot of scarcity, being focused on generosity. First of all, if you're an entrepreneur or in business or a manager or CEO, the company that is the most generous wins. Ted Turner, multi-billionaire, quoted Paul Harris, the founder of Rotary. He said, "The one who serves the best profits the most." That's why Apple did so well under Steve Jobs. I mean, Steve Jobs was an artist, much less an entrepreneur. Steve Jobs wanted to just push beauty into the marketplace. Like, look at the innovation he brought. He wanted the icons on the iPhone to be so beautiful people would lick the screen. So I think the great masters of business understand, I call it the 10x value obsession. Give your customers 10 times the value they have any right to expect, and you are going to build a global base of fanatical followers in this world suffering from what I call collective deprofessionalization of business. Like, so many business people are checked out. So many businesses are bad or mediocre, or they're in scarcity. Let me give you as little as possible to get as much as possible. So generosity is incredible in business. But as a human being, to use your example, to give the tip. I've been on this book tour, so I'm staying in a lot of hotels, and I don't know if this is going to make sense to you. I think it's really going to make sense to you, but picking up the towels and putting them in the bathtub. Making your bed, remembering that someone's mother or father or son or daughter will be coming into this room, and thinking about their user experience. It's very powerful. And then just taking the 20 pounds or whatever it is and putting it on the pillow. It's stunning. It's stunning how powerful it is. Or even just you're a stranger on the street, giving a gift of a compliment or a conversation. There's a lot of people who are really lonely right now. Everyone looks like they're living amazing lives, right? And they have all the friends and they're in all the right restaurants. So a lot of us have 1,000 digital friends. We don't even have one true friend, right? A true friend is someone who you could call 3 o'clock in the morning in a foreign country and they'll get on the first plane and they will come and get you. A true friend is someone who says, Rob, you have flaws and strengths, just like I do. And I love you for it. A true friend is someone you can be totally yourself with. And they're always there for you.
So we have another new round. I'm playing with the concept. I've been doing this 1,003 episodes, so I've just warmed up. Time to disrupt my own show. So we've just recently introduced the Disruptors round.
Okay.
Because I didn't want it to just be assumed that my guests were disruptors. The show is called Disruptors. They are disruptors. You disrupted 8 a.m. with your 5 a.m. club. So we actually have a physical Disruptors round.
Okay.
Nice and simple, 4 questions.
Sure.
What's the biggest disruption that's happened to you in your life?
I'd say going through a divorce in my past was very disappointing, very painful, very confusing, very dark for me.
Is there anything you could expand on that?
It was a very hard time. It was a very hard time, and it was two good people who just, weren't compatible.
Did you know that a reasonable amount of time before you separated?
Became more and more clear as time went on. But I don't call it a failed relationship. I was here in London listening to a busker right by where the London Eye is. And he played, it was just one of those days where it was like a rest day and I was just in the moment and he was playing this great music. So I sat down right by the river and I sat down and I listened to him play. And maybe his third song in, it was just he pushed a piece of magic. It was just incredible. And he goes, well, that was, I wrote that because of my failed relationship. And that's what gave me the power to write that song. It was failed. It was just, and I said to him, I go, you wouldn't have been able to write that song but for that relationship. Why are you saying it was failed? So I'm just saying I don't see it as a failure. I don't see any of my setbacks as failures. They were all grist for the mill, right? They're like, I think in many ways, the person who lives the most colorful life wins.
Mm. What's the biggest risk you've ever taken?
Well, the biggest risk I've ever taken, I'd say logically leaving my career as a litigation lawyer to self-publish a book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari in a 24-hour copy shop where people thought I was crazy. But I qualify it as a risk because I had no choice. I just had no choice. I just had to do it. And sometimes people say, oh, you were so brave to leave such a comfortable life to start off as an anonymous author. I don't think it was brave. I just did the job. Like what I do now, I'm no better than anyone else. My work is no more important than the gardener or the teacher who raises the thinking and lives of 20 people, or the firefighter. I mean, those are all incredibly important jobs. I just do what I do. It's not big. You asked me about the book sales, the numbers. It's no big deal. I don't see it as a big deal. I don't think. Yeah, I'm just
a big deal versus big is different. I mean,
yeah.
surely in part of your mission, you want to impact as many people as you possibly could.
Yes. I focus less on that and more on what I call the sacred trust bond I have with each of my readers.
Yeah, because then the consequence will be you'll reach more people if the quality of the work is good and the connection is good.
Well, people feel quality. That gets to our point about artistry and creative people and productive people. If you work with love, if you work with devotion, if you work with discipline bordering on an obsession, versus what a lot of people do, I find, is they rush the content and then they spend all their time marketing it.
Yes.
right?
Yes. Well, you've got brand marketing and sales. You know, the better the brand, you don't need to do any marketing and sales.
The better the quality. If you
Yeah.
push a masterwork, people are going to find out about it. People are going to talk about it.
Mm.
So when you consume any piece of content, you can feel the commitment of the creator in the content. So I'm more focused. I do my best to remember, how do you build a movement one conversation at a time. And the moment I forget about each reader, and I'm not perfect, I can't reply to every single Instagram DM, but I do my best to go in there every day and record voice notes for people who might be, you know, startup entrepreneur, homemaker, or pizza create, whatever, chef or whatever. I try to record audio notes, and I try to put out the best work I can possibly do, as painful as it is, as hard as it is, as scary as it is sometimes to go to the jagged edges of your craft. I mean, in this book, I wrote in a different way than I did from the previous book. It's a much more simple way of writing. And I think this book is very intimate. I mean, I bring people into my writing room at the old farmhouse with leaky windows that I live in. I take people on the road with me, but I've set up the books to be an intimate conversation with people. So it's new ground, but it felt right to do.
Mm. What's the most brutal life lesson you've ever experienced?
The most brutal. I think a lot of people have experienced this. People you trusted, let me just say it politely, didn't come through for you.
Are people supposed to come through for us?
I think in an ideal world, when you trust...
It's a dangerous place, ideology, isn't it?
Ideology is dangerous, but don't you think, Rob, that if you have a very close relationship with someone, and there's an assumption and an understanding that there's a lot of trust, and you're doing your best to do good things, that there should be reciprocity? Am I saying that life doesn't happen? And of course not. But you asked me what's the brutal life lesson, and it's people you trust, people you care about, people you love can completely betray you. And I'm not sitting here boo-hooing. I'm not like, wow, I want my mommy. There's no tear coming down my eye. But you asked me this tough question, and I'm trying.
This is the moment. This is the moment, Robin.
I'm trying to be honest to you. I've forgiven. I've got stuff to do. I don't have time. You know, I think the past is a school to be learned from, not a prison to be chained in. So I'm not stuck in the past. But you asked the question, I gave you the answer, and I think a lot of your many followers would agree with me.
What's the most disruptive thing anyone's ever said or done to you?
The most disruptive. Well, I think these are all similar questions. So
maybe. As someone who edits his book 10,000 times, I'm sure you could find the nuance in them. Am I just becoming more of a pedantic? I'm trying to be careful with my language.
My brain hurts now. My brain hurts now. I haven't used what little I have.
Was this a rest day
it's
for
really
you?
This was supposed to be a rest day. We're shooting this. Yeah. What's the most disruptive? I don't know. What's the most disruptive? Where do you come up with these questions? Like,
1,003 iterations of the show.
Do you read a book like how to confuse guests and come up with impossible questions to answer? Like, where do you get these questions?
But this show
are they from AI?
No,
Where
none of these
where do
are
you
from
get
AI.
these?
Intense amounts of research, intense amounts of doing the show, intense amounts of sweating down to a fine jus. The man who absolutely appreciates mastery of a craft.
Yes, but this is too hard here.
This is
supposed to be my rest day after 3 weeks. 3 weeks,
I'm
and
gonna
you're
argue.
putting me through this. Like, have you no mercy, man?
I'm going to argue that this is one of the most powerful moments of this.
Century?
Yeah. In the
You're very humble. You're very
No,
humble.
no. If in the quest of consuming all of your work,
Yes.
this is a beautiful moment for me.
Wonderful. I'm happy you're
I remember
happy. I'm happy.
I remember I asked in our last interview, and I knew it would be a pokey one, but that's my job. I asked your net worth, and oof, you are having none of that. And there's something about challenging someone so centered that just makes me enjoy the moment.
Well, it's very amusing. It's very amusing, and I'm thoroughly enjoying our conversation. So let me the most disruptive thing anyone has done for me,
Or to you.
or done to me. Well, I would. One thing that comes to mind is standing in the Sistine Chapel with my 2 kids, Colby and Bianca, and looking up at Michelangelo's ceiling and tears flowing. Totally disrupted me. Standing in Nelson Mandela's prison cell on Robin Island a number of years ago, seeing how he was treated for the 18 years he was in that cell, how he forgave. He was a member of the 5 a.m. club, no excuses. He'd do push-ups. He'd run on the spot to stay fit. And after, we all know the story, after he was released from Drakenstein prison in Paarl, he became the president of South Africa. Before he did that, he invited the prosecutor who sought the death penalty to dinner and the jailer who kept him in prison to his inauguration. So there haven't been a lot of moments that changed my life, that disrupted me. I would say, especially Robin Island, I've never been the same after that. I've never been the same. And to see Michelangelo, his work, there was an exhibition of Jean-Michel Basquiat in Rome that blew my mind. To see his art totally disrupted me. And there are some times when I'll see an artist especially, or listen to a piece of music that really moves me at a very deep level. What brings tears to my eyes is seeing mastery in action, and kindness. Kindness can disrupt me too. Maybe disrupt me is not the right word, but it moves me very deeply.
Mm. So now we have the money round. And could you remind us of the exact title of your book so I don't butcher it?
Sure. The Wealth Money Can't Buy.
So I'm looking forward to the slant on this. So some of these might be a bit direct.
Okay.
Yeah. Does money make you happy?
Money can give me some pleasure. I don't know. It's very fleeting. It's not a driver. I don't think it makes me happy. I think there's a difference between pleasure and happiness.
And that is?
Pleasure is transitory. Happiness is something that's more sustained.
Of your 8 forms of wealth, if you had to pick 3 that were most important, what would they be?
Personal growth, because your relationship with yourself determines everything. As you grow, your life grows in every area. Number 2, family. What's the point of being successful in the world and all alone? 3, service. To be on a mission that's higher than yourself is a great source of joy. Gandhi, I've been quoting Gandhi, to lose yourself in service of others is to find yourself.
Should you buy or rent a house? There's a lot of Americans telling us we should never buy a house. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I don't give financial advice. I'd say if you want to buy a house, buy a house. Real estate, you're the master. You're the master. But how many fortunes have been built on real estate? And renting a house, I think that's going to bring you some freedom. I mean, I'm not an expert at this, but renting a house gives you a lot of freedom. You can give your notice if you want to leave according to your agreement and move to Bali and practice yoga. So many ways to do it.
What did school fail to teach us about money?
Well, I don't think school teaches us anything about money. I think in many ways school, the 5th form of wealth, I think school blocks us from prosperity. School teaches us to be like everyone else, to think like everyone else. But the people who make financial fortunes that I've worked with are total disruptors. They're originals. The marketplace rewards originality. So you look at Elon Musk, you look at Steve Jobs, you look at Aristotle Onassis, you look at Catherine Graham, you look at, I'm reading a book right now on Joseph P. Kennedy, the patriarch, RFK and JFK's father, made a financial fortune on Wall Street. These people, they had a bunch of things in common. There's actually a chapter in the book called The Habit Stack of Super Wealthy People where I deconstruct it. One of the things is they think for themselves. What a concept. What a concept. They think for themselves. They're originals. So school teaches us to think like everyone else, to color within the lines, not to be yourself, to be practical. George Bernard Shaw said, "The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable one persists in adapting the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man, or, of course, woman." But school teaches us to be reasonable. Be a doctor, be a lawyer, be an accountant. Nothing wrong with those professions. They're great. But what if you want to be a drummer? What if you want to be a chef? What if you want to be a gardener? The thing that lights you up will light up the world.
What's the untold truth about money?
Well, I'm not a money expert. But you still want an answer, I'm sure. I would say the untold truth about money. The untold truth about money is wherever, it's a Zen proverb, wherever you go, there you are. The untold truth about money is if you think it will make you feel different, as I think billions of people think, when I get this amount of money, all my problems will go away. I will wake up feeling happy. I will love myself. My neighbors will think I'm a superstar. I humbly suggest it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I think that's the untold truth, that there are 7 other forms of wealth. If you lose your health, for example, the 2nd form of wealth in the book, if you lose your health, you're going to spend all your time trying to get it back.
And all your money.
And all your money. I mean, we've both known people who've made fortunes, lost their health along the way, and nothing else matters except even a good day of health. I had one friend, and he said, he was related to a billionaire, and the billionaire told him, if I had one day of health, I'd trade all my fortune. I was in Qatar doing a live event. Someone handed me a piece of paper and said, "Read this in your hotel room tonight." I did, and it said, "Health is the crown on the well person's head that only the ill person can see." Wellness is the 2nd form of wealth. So one of the secret truths about money, or the untold elements of money, is money won't solve your problems. And I'd say, secondly, we all have scarcity scars that we don't know about. This world is full of possibility. Even in a recession, you can do incredibly well.
Well, many millionaires, that's how they build their fortunes, on a recession.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But we see the world not as it is, we see the world as we are. And so we pick up these social cues and these programs from our parents and our teachers and the media and society, and we integrate those within our subconscious. And then we go out there and we see scarcity, and we see these limitations, which limit us financially as well as spiritually, lifestyle, etc.
So we're going to finish on the quick fire round, Robin.
Sure.
You're allowed to answer as short as you like.
Okay.
10 million cash or 1 million engaged social media followers. Which do you choose and why?
I'd go for the followers, because I could help them and deliver value to them and, be of service to them.
What's the best advice you ever remember receiving?
I had a mentor when I was in my early 20s. He said, "Robin, run your own race." My mom gave me amazing advice. She said, "Robin, what is yours cannot be taken away from you. And if something was taken away from you, it wasn't yours." And my father said, "Son, be helpful." As simple as it sounds, be helpful.
What's the worst advice you ever remember receiving?
It's not possible. Be practical. Be reasonable. Terrible advice.
What's your biggest regret?
You've heard this a million times, but I really do believe it. I don't have any regrets. The hard times in my life served me much better than the good times.
Like the harder interviews,
Yeah,
maybe served you better.
Maybe. Well,
Yeah. You'll meditate on that one. What one thing do you think is wrong with the world that you'd love to change?
we forget we are on a tiny planet in a galaxy of trillions of planets, and we're all brothers and sisters here. And we've put up these walls and disconnections, and we look at people's skin color or religion or where they're from, and we forget that we are one family, and we have so much in common. We all have the same longings and hopes and dreams and many of the same fears. And so one thing I don't like about the world right now is there's just so much divisiveness. Yeah, so much versus us. I sound like I'm going to break into kumbaya, but getting to know people and working together and having leaders who do amazing things for the world.
Yeah, if time and space are infinite, like apparently they might be, and if there's not just a universe, which I thought was infinite, there's a multiverse, which is infiniteness. We're pretty lucky to be together right here, right now. I mean, what a gift that we get to share the same time and space. What are the odds? What are the odds?
And we will never, sometimes, this might sound weird, but I'll see someone driving by, like in London, in a grocery truck, and I'll look at that person, I'll go, I'll probably never see that person again. So I make sure I wave. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm just saying.
That's the weird bit. Hey!
No, I run in front of the truck and go, hey, I might never see you again. So this moment that we're... right?
What a great mantra. Like the girl or the guy you might want to chat up at the bar. The pitch you might need to do to the millionaire. You might never see them again. Try it. Say it. Ask for it.
How small we play because of a fear of rejection. I think we need to talk more about this fear of rejection in our lives. And so knowing that grocery driver, it's interesting. I'll never see him again. You and I having this conversation right here. Who knows if we're ever going to chat about I'm sure we will, but it's like understanding the power of the moment. I was in South Africa, and a driver would take, he said to me, I go, like, every time he look at someone, he lit up. He lit up. And I said, when you see people, you're so happy. And he goes, Robin, I've seen a lot of dead people in my life. So when I see a live person, it makes me very happy. In India, they don't shake hands. They go like this, namaste. And as you know, namaste means I bow to the divine within. You talk about a mantra. Isn't this a great practice? You come up to everyone. You don't have to, but metaphorically, I bow to the divine within. If you don't believe in that, just I bow to, I see you. Powerful. In India, what they do is they touch the feet of elders. Could you imagine if you want to stay humble and grounded, as an entrepreneur, humble, so you work hard, innovate, wow your customers. As a human being, so you're always learning and giving. Imagine if every person you met, might sound strange, but metaphorically, you touch the feet of the person, people might be shaking their heads. I think that would be so powerful. Metaphorically, you touch the feet of every person you meet. It will keep you so humble, so grounded, so nimble, so agile.
So final question. Do you have a 15-second or less tip for strong mental health and resilience?
MVP, every morning, meditate, visualize, and pray. Number 2, write in a journal every morning or 5 days a week, 5 questions. I mentioned them. What am I grateful for? Where am I winning? What will I let go of today? What does my ideal day look like? What does my last day look like? 3, read books of people whose lives you want to be living. Reading is having a conversation with the author. Their stardust and positivity and courage and integrity will rub off on you. 4, let go of the toxic people. Last one for positivity. Spend more time alone. Get to know yourself. Great things happen in silence.
What one book would you like people to get of yours next? And then what one place should they follow you on to see your journey across the world and all the impact you make?
So the book to read is The Wealth Money Can't Buy. I think it's the most valuable book. I don't know if I blurred that when I said it, but The Wealth Money Can't Buy. And it's the most valuable book I've ever done. I haven't written 19 books, so I celebrate you for that. But I think it's by far the most valuable book I've ever written. I put so much into it. I think it's just, there's so much information, tactics, and a whole new way to see success and wealth that'll really make a big difference, positive difference in people's lives. And where can they follow me? The usual places, Robin Sharma, YouTube, Instagram, robinsharma.com.
I've really enjoyed this, Robin. Thank you so much.
Really tough interview.
Thank you. I'll take that as a complete compliment. You're
tough.
filling me with love, Robin.
Tough interview. Toughest in a long time. Very challenging intellectually and personally. And I must say I enjoyed every minute of it. And I want to celebrate you for the way your podcast is blown up, all the people that you're helping globally, and for your preparation. Really impressive.